For this video, I'm going to be reviewing Estranged Act-1. That is a very hard name to say. I mean, it doesn't sound like it or look like it, but it feels weird when I say it. Anyway, that aside, Estranged Act-1 is a survival horror mod for Half-Life 2. It's the first part in an episodic series, or at least what is intended to be an episodic series. I don't know if the devs have abandoned it or not. Uh, but it's a pretty short mod. I completed it in about an hour and 10 minutes, and this is probably gonna end up being a short video because, like I said, it's a very short mod, so there's not really much to talk about. So, without trying to pad out the length of this video, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the pros and what I liked about it. So, the very first thing, one of the first things I noticed, at least once I started playing the game, was it's very atmospheric. It's got a very, like, kind of foreboding or mysterious atmosphere throughout the whole thing. It kind of reminds me of, this isn't really the greatest comparison, but it's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. It kind of reminded me of the first few levels of Day Hunger, that old, like, zombie mod for the original Half-Life, in that you kind of arrive in, like, a small town or whatever, and you don't really know what's going on, and zombies are out and about and eating people, and it's got, like, kind of a mysterious atmosphere, because you don't really 100% know it's zombies yet, but, I mean, well, your character doesn't anyway, you do, because you presumably read the description for the mod, but, in terms of the story, you don't know that it's zombies yet, and so there's kind of like a mysterious and foreboding atmosphere, like leading up to the first zombie encounter, and that kind of carries on over to the whole mod. It's just, it's got this you know, because you're walking around like this like dead community or whatever, where everybody is either dead or a zombie, so it's just got this like creepy, abandoned atmosphere to it, and this is kind of increased or enhanced, not increased, enhanced by the soundtrack. The soundtrack for the game is really cool. It's very subtle, but it helps the atmosphere immensely. It's if I had to describe the mod, it's not really scary at all, but it's creepy. You know, it's got like an atmosphere of just a really kind of like foreboding and menacing atmosphere throughout the majority of the mod. There's two new weapon models, which are pretty cool. There's a hammer, which replaces the crowbar, and a Colt 45, which replaces the regular pistol from Half-Life 2. There's some machine gun, but that uses the same model, though. But the Colt and the hammer are both pretty cool new models. And for such a short mod, it's got a pretty good variety of gameplay. It starts out and it's kind of like a walking simulator where you just kind of like are walking around looking at atmosphere, and then looking at atmosphere, ignore that, taking in the atmosphere, and then it kind of turns into a survival horror for a while, and then it's got lots of like physics puzzles, or not even really like, not necessarily physics puzzles, but just like areas where, you know, your path is blocked off and you gotta like use your brain to try and figure out like how you're supposed to unblock your path or something like that. And then, you know, of course, it kind of towards the end degenerates into like a corridor shooter, but I'm not going to talk about that too much because it's kind of a spoiler, but I will mention it in a tiny bit more detail without, hopefully without spoiling it late in a couple of minutes. But also the environments are pretty well designed. I really liked it. And in the 1 hour that it'll take you to beat this game, you go through a shitload of different locations. Like, I was really surprised. Like, by the end of the mod, I was like, God damn, have I, like, already been around the entire island? Like, I'm not gonna say every environment, but, like, within, like, the first, like, 10 minutes, you've gone from docks through a, like, small village area, through a train station, through a warehouse, and now you're in, like, a water processing plant. And that's like in the first 10 minutes. It's just like, what? You know, another thing is, for a Source Engine game, the graphics are really, really good. And it's got some pretty cool graphical effects. Like, there's a grain filter on by default that helps to make the mod seem a little bit more atmospheric and kind of give it like a feeling of like an old, like, 70s or 80s zombie horror movie, I guess. And, as I said, it's the first episode in an episodic game, or what's intended to be an episodic series, so it sets up the story pretty well for that. It leaves you wondering what happens next, and the true nature of the zombie outbreak, I guess. Now for the cons. The first thing I'm going to say, this isn't really a con for me, but it might be for other people. Like I said earlier, it's very short. Like, I beat it in exactly an hour and 11 minutes. But that's to be expected because, it's an episodic entry into a series. But, some people are really, like, anal about whether, like, how long or short something is, so I don't know, that might be a turnoff for some people, although it's a free mod, so I don't really see why length would be that big a deal. But, also the voice acting for the characters is kind of dorky. Again, like I said, it's a free mod, so that kind of, you know, you'd expect that, and they obviously can't really afford, like, professional voice actors. But what little voice acting there is, it's kind of, like, a little bit cringy, along with the source character models, like, or the source character model animations with, like, they like use their hands a lot to, like, emote the characters, and I don't know why, but it just kind of is like, I don't know, it just seems kind of dorky to me.
Interesting parking, by the way.
And then also, even though it's supposed to be a zombie survival horror mod, the actual zombies themselves are kind of, encounters with zombies are very spread out, and they don't really pose that big a threat, if I'm gonna be honest. Like, you can kill most of them in, like, one shot with your Colt, so it's not, and you get a pretty decent amount of ammo for your guns, so there's never any real, like,
the island is
threatening. Like, there was only one time in the entire mod I had to run away from a zombie. So, I mean, it's got, like, this really great atmosphere, but then the zombies, like, you fight the zombies and they die so easily. And even then, like, they're like I said, encounters with them are kind of spread out. There's, like,
with a damn curfew message.
I don't know. I don't really want to entirely spoil it, but there's, like, a period where you fight a couple of zombies, then there's a long stretch where you don't see any zombies, and then you fight, like, 5, and then there's another long stretch, and it's
Follow the river to the
it kind of, like, I don't know, it's just the zombies aren't very threatening, which
sure that's where it's coming from.
Takes away from the atmosphere a little bit. I'm repeating myself, but anyway, and then towards the end, the zombies kind of get replaced with these, like, generic soldier enemies, and it turns into kind of like an action mod for 10 or so minutes, and that kind of was a little bit jarring because it's like,
keep them safe.
The atmosphere just sort of goes away, and it basically feels like a regular level from Half-Life 2. But that's, like, at the very end, like, the last, like, not even 10 minutes, actually, like, maybe, like, 10 to 5 minutes, like, 5 to 10 minutes of the mod, so it's only a very small part of the mod, so, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. The final verdict of the mod, I would say, is, Estranged Act-1 is, like, the definition of short and sweet. It's pretty much a micro game, but in this case, it's not really a bad thing. It knows what it's trying to do for the most part, and it never outstays its welcome. It has a great atmosphere that pulls the player in, and it keeps them interested in what's going on, and for only being 1 hour long, it manages to have a good variety in the gameplay and environments. It's really surprising how much terrain you traverse, and how much you end up doing in such a short amount of time. It's not perfect, but for the first episode of a series, it does its job, and it does it very well. If you have, like, an hour or so to kill and feel like playing a cool Half-Life 2 mod, then you can't go wrong with this one. I doubt it'll amaze anyone, but I mean, it's not really trying to. It just sort of wants to pull you in for long enough to get you interested, and then leave you wondering how the rest of the story plays out. And it pretty much accomplishes that without a hitch. It's a very good, atmospheric, short mod to, kill some time with. So that about wraps up this review, and I will see you guys in the next video.